Okay, we have solved the issue. We should be going live any second now to the YouTube channel. So if everybody can be aware that we are now going to be streaming.
Okay, Jaylene, are we ready to go?
We're ready to go, Deb.
Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:19. And the first item on the agenda is to, if there's any amendments to the agenda as presented. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda? No? The only thing I have is that the term of reference was supposed to be on this meeting agenda and it's not. So can we move it to the next meeting? Jaylene?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, we'll just move it to the next meeting. So if any else has no additions to the agenda, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Okay, Morgan? Okay, and the next item is the council update.
I can start, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Morgan.
Morgan can take team in. A couple of things came up. Obviously, economic development, they presented with their new concept or their new idea about reaching out to the business community with their new big live big Cochrane promotion. Anyways, it's been kind of been a double. I don't know. It hasn't been received necessarily overly well throughout the community, but I'll say some of the things that people have thought. I mean, a lot of people think that, why are we promoting business versus trying to get a controlled development? Traffic has been a nightmare, obviously, for many of us as you travel through Cochrane over the last couple of days. I think the big message has to be with communication, and it's kind of been a frustrating point because I think a lot of people don't understand necessarily what the overall traffic situation will look like over the next 1, 2, 3 years. And I think that, it's just not being portrayed out there. And so people are frustrated, and I get it. I mean, when we have a lot of people that are commuting and they're sitting in traffic, and then we're promoting, hey, come to Cochrane and move in, and they're sitting there gridlocked, I understand the frustration. So I think that we need to do a better job, unfortunately, as a town in communicating that message as to why it's not necessarily flowing the right way. I know that I have pinged administration about some issues that I have heard about lights and basically kind of a timing issue. I don't know where that sits, but those are things that we have heard. It's frustrating being a counselor because everybody blames everything on you. But at the end of the day, I think that we need to do a better job of communicating. When people understand what's happening, they understand and we can go from there. But right now, that's not necessarily the case. The other thing that came up, and Morgan can chime in after I'm done, was about railway. And so there was an issue there with an asbestos pipe that had to be replaced. It cost the town a lot of money. I'm just giving you the quick synopsis of what this looks like. But some of those contingency plans and engineering plans are not included in the budget. So now we recently approved a big chunk of cash to make those things go forward. But at the end of the day, they probably should have been more addressed in the initial budget, which I have pushed for to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I mean, I think that, we can deal with a lot of things, but and it's not to say that we're kind of blindsided, but at the time, I mean, if you don't really know what the overall impact can be, it's huge. And especially during a time of COVID. I mean, people have to understand that, as we move forward, COVID's going to be a huge issue that we have to address all the way across the board. There's going to be a huge there's going to be a huge amount of cuts that we have to do as a community, as a municipality. Where do you begin? Who gets money? And right now it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to decide who gets that. So I don't know if Morgan wants to chime in on any more, but that's kind of what I have.
Yeah, thanks. And I would add, can you guys hear me okay? I don't have my webcam this evening. I'm on my desktop. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Mr. Nagel.
So yeah, something I would add, and it's on the topic of traffic. I obviously you guys have seen what's been going on in the community. I don't know what the heck is going on because I thought everybody was working remotely these days and therefore supposed to be doing less driving, but it seems like traffic, at least this past month, has been worse than ever, as Councillor Federico pointed out. But something that has come out recently, well, there's the positive news, of course, that we have upgraded Center Avenue with the new lines. And we're hoping to be able to work with the province soon to be able to actually get a dual turn lane there so we can use both those lanes coming off the hill. So we're making some improvements there. We've also got the positive news of the bridge opening up very, very soon. The official launch date, it's right around the corner. It'll be made public very, very soon. But on the negative side of the discussion, some concerns, some pretty serious concerns about something that's come out, and I understand it's public now, but the province was getting very serious about building the highway intersection that we've been promised for many, many years, and they actually started costing everything out, and it has come out that there are actually some pre-existing pipelines sitting right underneath that conflict with the current design, that would cost several $1,000,000 to move. And there's, I guess we have limited information as the municipality, but there is, I guess, not really a clear precedence or protocol as to who has to pay for this, whether it's the pipeline company or if it's the provincial government. But we are now being told that there's, likely going to be some sort of significant delay unless some huge amount of money comes forward to just move these pipelines. Obviously, very frustrating from a municipal standpoint because we had both the NDP minister as well as the UCP minister. Both of them have come out to Cochrane and told us that they're building this thing. Minister Mason, back when was it? I think like 2016, came and had a big press conference, a big flashy announcement that the highway was getting built immediately when Minister McIver took office. He was very clear. I think he told our mayor, I think Mayor Janung just asked him about it. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, Jeff. We're building it. We're building it for sure. It's happening." And now here we are, and it sounds like there's going to be more delays. So that's obviously a concerning update, and probably going to end up being egg in our face as a council. But truthfully, there's nothing we could have done to prevent it. But that's some news that'll be hitting the community soon.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Mr. Nagel. Any questions? Mr. Lyle or Mr. Balmer?
Sorry, I had to make sure that I was unmuted. So I got a question, perhaps this one might be for Mr. Stewart. I heard Councillor both talking about the changes and the highway upgrade that the pipelines, that's news to me. These are pipelines that should be on somebody's map. And then I listened to the council meeting on Monday and they talked about the asbestos pipes along railway and that we're going to necessitate an additional $700,000 for that work. And nobody knew that the asbestos was there. I'm just, my question is simply, what confidence does the planning department have in their underground drawings that we actually know what's underneath our feet? Digging a hole in the ground and finding First Nations burial ground is one thing, but digging a hole in the ground and finding asbestos pipes or pipe lines is something that should be on somebody's radar. Where are we at with underground drawings?
Through the chair, yeah, Mr. Balmer, I will touch on the interchange and the pipelines related there. I was kind of surprised myself when I found out that the existing pipelines under the interchange were not part of the province's considerations when they were doing their design, whether they were not, I don't believe they were not aware, but perhaps their actual depth was either mistaken or just unknown, and they made assumptions, which obviously is causing additional costs and communication between the pipeline companies as well as the province. And in regards to the town's infrastructure, we had it in our GIS system as ductile iron pipe, and that was obviously mislabeled. It was asbestos concrete for that pipe, so that is a significant cost to dispose of. And kind of the rule of thumb that we've operated in is the older the area and the older the data that we transferred over to our GIS system, the more unreliable is not the best way to put it, but the less confidence we have in it. So, some of these streets are, 70, 80 years old, as well as the pipes are 50 to 70 years old as well. So just the transfer of data from the old paper drawings to the GIS system that transpired, 15, 17 years ago when the GIS got set up is partial as part of the challenge. I have very high confidence in the work that's been done in the last 10 and a half years that I've been with the town in the implementation of taking the information from the new developments and getting them into our system. I have high confidence in the accuracy there.
Thank you.
If I could also add in through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to defend the administration, what I said as well. Like, everybody at the town was totally shocked by it. So it's definitely not an overlook. Anybody in our town administration has overlooked something with the provincial government's highway. The province did all the design work, and they gave us every assurance that was ready to go. So definitely, no one at the town can take any fault for that.
One question, Madam Chair, or one comment.
Yes.
Yeah, just to be sure, I wasn't looking to lay blame on anybody for this. I know our administration, always surprised at how thorough they are and dedicated they are. I guess my hope is, as I stated many times in the past, is that so we get caught by surprise in this one, but the bigger mistake would be to not reapply what we just learned in the right-of-way under the 22-1A interchange and the buried asbestos. So I guess how can we use what we learned in those two to keep us from getting caught by surprise in the future? That's my only point. Certainly not a criticism of administration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Balmer. You have a comment, Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I felt Mr. Balmer's comment also kind of ended in a question there. So I would suggest that the town moving forward, one of our lessons learned is when we're going to be undertaking a project such as deep utility upgrades on Railway Street or in other older areas of town, that we do investigate our assumptions with a hydrovac. It is a little more cost up front, but it provides that certainty of pipe alignments as well as materials. So I'm sure that's a lesson learned that we'll be utilizing moving forward.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Okay, any other questions of council? No? Okay, thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is the council update. So to you, Mr. Stewart. Oh, we just did that, sorry. Adoption of the previous minutes from August 19th. Are there any errors or omissions? Mr. Balmer, you have a question on the August 19 minutes?
One question at the risk of slowing us down here. So in the minutes of the August 19th minute meeting, there was a development permit 2020-057 was addressed, and the condition 4 to the approval of that permit was that the applicant owner shall submit an updated erosion and sediment control plan. We'd referenced that plan in the last meeting, and I'd asked for a copy of that plan, but the plan doesn't exist. So what's the step there? I'm assuming that they have to have an erosion and sediment control plan to receive approval of this development permit. What's the protocol there, Mr. Stewart, in getting that done?
Through the chair to address the question, Mr. Balmer, I believe you did speak with Riley about this topic, and there was an erosion and sediment control plan that was part of that development as it relates to the storm pond and the hole in the ground that they're going to build. So from the perspective that they're just creating a depression in the ground, there's not a lot of runoff or sediment and erosion issues that can occur from digging that out. The remainder of the work that's going on that site is through the reclamation process with the province, and we didn't require that ESC plans because it's outside of the scope of the work that they were applying for.
Well, fair enough. So if I understand what you said, there is no ESC plan for moving this soils on site to dig the pond.
There is the one drawing showing just some perimeter controls around the area that they're doing work when they're digging the pond. But because they're creating a depression in the ground, there's no large contouring of the lands related to that application that would create large erosion or sediment runoff.
Okay.
There is through the province's reclamation process, those types of plans, but those are provincially regulated. So we're just more concerned about the work that they're doing related to that application.
Okay. So just for the record, then I'll end on this note is that depression in the ground that you referred to, they're digging that stormwater pond hole will, if I remember right, is going to involve the moving of several thousand cubic meters of soil. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I believe if I recall correctly, I think it was to the tune of about 20,000 cubic meter, which is as part of the permit. They did show a stockpile location just beside that pond, and on those erosion plans that the stockpile needs to be loamed and seeded to prevent erosion once it's created.
Yep. Thank you.
So a question, Mr. Balmer, I don't have the minutes sitting in front of me then. Is there a change that needs to be made to the minutes so it correctly reflects that that report does not exist?
Well, I don't know if we need a change to the minutes, but I guess I am questioning that in the minutes, the approval of this development permit 2020-057 on point 4 states that prior to the issuance of the development permit, the applicant owner shall submit an erosion and sediment control plan. But what I think I heard Mr. Stewart say is that we don't need a plan for that. Or if there is a plan, it's as simple as it sounds like a couple of one-liners. Just for the record, I'm not comfortable with that being so close to the Bow River, but it sounds like planning and admin is, so I'll have to bow to their expertise on this one. Does there need to be a change to the minutes? I don't think so.
I would suggest though, if that is the approval within the minutes, it actually should be removed in the minutes and the decision. Because if we can't ask for that, those conditions are what we enforce. So if that's not something we're enforcing, it shouldn't be listed in the decision or the minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jaylene, because it does say that the applicant owner shall submit an updated erosion and sediment control plan to the satisfaction of the development authority. We are the development authority in this one, but it doesn't sound like anything is coming more than what we've already seen on this. So that should be removed. Point 4 should be removed from the minutes. Am I wrong?
Through the chair, just to kind of speak to Jaylene on this one. Jaylene, it's a condition of the notice of decision. So because the notice of decision has been issued, my understanding is that we can't strike the prior to issuance condition, but rather because we do have, it's also a very standard condition for us for our stripping and grading permits. So I would suggest that we leave the condition in there because the notice of decision has already been issued, and that that we or CBC just acknowledges or accepts administration's faith in the fact that the submitted and Lyle, I will agree with you that it is a very simple plan. It's not your typical report of where there's large grading operations going on and they're contouring the land. So there is a submitted plan, and it is essentially to our to administration's satisfaction before we brought it to you.
So Ms. Knight, can I leave it to you, to your guidance? So we have something that is said that will be done when it's not going to be done, nor is it required. So your guidance with respect to the minutes is what?
Oh, that's a great question, Deb, because my initial thought is, yeah, get rid of that if that's not what we're requiring. Now, further to what Ryan had said is if it is a sort of a smaller plan to some degree, perhaps adding a note there advising that it's not a full plan would be noted somewhere just so that we have that, because otherwise that stands as saying that CPC approved it and required that plan as a prior to issuance condition, which was not the case. Not a simple one, I'm afraid, on this one.
So if I may interject through the chair, prior to issuance condition, when that condition is completed, administration usually puts like condition completed. Those drawings would be stamped and attached to the development permit. So the plan that was submitted would be the only one that is being approved. So as Ryan had mentioned, it's just that small little plan. That's all that planning would approve. It wouldn't approve the whole ESC plan for the entire area.
That's a
So
good point.
my thoughts on that would be is if it wasn't going to be a full ESC plan, and it should have been noted somewhere within either the package that was provided to the Planning Commission, or that condition should have been struck if that was not the intent.
If I may comment, so there's an ESC plan which was part of the package that was submitted to administration. There's also reference to it in the report from the August agenda package and report that Danica created for the Planning Commission last month. It's a snippet within that, but we did receive a plan. We did not receive a report. So a report is, quite a lengthier and more involved investigation into how the grading of the land is going to impact and address erosion and sediment controls and runoff. This was a relatively simple plan due to the fact that it's a depression in the ground, and any erosion that happens on those side slopes as they're contouring it will stay within that pond area.
Okay, I think at this point, because the approval's already been done on this at the previous meeting, the Planning Commission may need to just approve these minutes with the condition in its entirety. The notice of decision has been issued, and then I think this is a learning piece for moving forward to make sure that if you're looking for an erosion control plan and there isn't one supplied, that the item gets deferred until you have that information in front of you and are comfortable with making the decision on that stripping and grading permit, if that comes before you again, which I'm sure it will, to ensure that you are comfortable with all of the conditions within the decision itself.
Okay, so just thinking that through, I believe that Mr. Balmer at the meeting requested a copy of that report at the meeting. Did you not, Mr. Balmer, and did follow up?
He did request that. I do recall that as well.
For a copy of
Yeah,
that.
so if I can reply to that, Madam Chair. I did request a copy of that, picked up a copy at the office, took it home, read through the entire package, and to my recollection, saw no reference at all to an ESC. I heard Mr. Stewart say that it was a snippet, I think he called it. But I guess because of the proximity to the Bow River, I had a larger concern about any soils that get moved around in that location, right? And all I'm looking for is, so what are they doing to
Just, Mr. Balmer, you're breaking
mitigate
up.
any risk to contaminating sediments into the, especially separate. Okay, what part did we miss? The plan I picked up had no
Yes.
reference to the ESC.
Okay. And can you continue again? From there, we just did not hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. Am I coming clearly now? Can you hear me
Fairly
now?
good. Not 100%, but fairly good. Try again, please.
Okay. The plan that I picked up that was given to me on the ESC had no reference, or of the development permit had no reference to the ESC in it that I could recall, that I could find. Because of the proximity to the Bow River, that was my concern, is that sediments get washed into the Bow. And I just wanted to confirm that we were looking out for that. There's no reference to it. So there is my concern, is I see on the permit or this portion of the request reference to an ESC, but there is none that I could find. Did you catch all that?
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think we got most of it.
Um,
Ms. Moore, you have a question?
Yeah, just on procedure. So last meeting, we approved the permit based on the conditions. So how do we get from approving the permit based on the conditions to giving out the permit without the conditions being met?
If I may, I'm looking at the pre-underground construction and post-underground erosion and sediment control drawings that were part of that package. So may I suggest that Mr. Ballmer and I discuss this later this week, and perhaps the package that was shared with you didn't contain that information? I'm looking at the
Just-
right now.
Right, so my question is more of a process question.
Okay.
Like how we got from point A to point Z without getting C.
Well, development permits get issued when prior to issuance conditions are met, not when all of the conditions are met. They have to get their permit prior to finalizing the rest of their conditions. It's only the prior to issuance. And I think what Mr. Stewart has said is the drawings they felt were sufficient to meet that condition. So what we're doing with this is simply talking about the minutes and not
No, I
rediscussing.
understand. I'm just trying to understand the
been
process.
approved. Yeah, so I think with Mr. Ballmer's concern about the note in the minutes, and then Mr. Stewart's clarification on that, I think we continue going forward, but perhaps, as I said, going forward, if there is a piece that Mr. Ballmer's not comfortable with, if there is erosion control measures that he would like to see prior to approvals to make sure they are in place, then I think we need to do that during our meeting. I think we need to defer a decision until all of that information is in front of the commission, because
Okay,
you
so we
should,
would defer,
when you
I'm
guys
sorry
are
to interrupt.
making- sorry, when you guys are making those decisions, you should have all that information in front of you. If you don't feel like you have enough information to approve it, you just defer until the next meeting to make your decision. And I think that for these more complicated applications, we may want to go down that path if we're feeling that the commission just doesn't have sufficient information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Knight. And I think that provides good clarification and support for us from a process step going forward, that if we do think that there is information that we need in order to make the decision, that the CPC as a whole make a recommendation and look at deferring. Okay. So with that in mind, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Ms. Lang? Okay, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, carried. Okay, so the next item is the development permits. The first item is the development officer's report for the month of August. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the deal report, there was 11 total development permits or notices of decisions issued in the month of August. 4 were issued by yourselves, the CPC, 7 were issued by the development officers. A couple of notes on those 7 that were issued by the development officers. One of them is a new development along Griffin Road, just east of the Petro-Canada, which is, it's an automotive service shop. It's a Cal Tire. They're looking to relocate their existing operation off of Railway Street onto that parcel there. They met, there was no variances required for that. That would have involved planning commission. There was one temporary development permit for the relocation of the buses or Southlands operation that was currently operating on that site. to move onto Second Ave and Railway Street East. That was a 3-year temporary fix where administration worked with Southland to ensure that they were able to operate efficiently out of our community while looking for a permanent home. There was 1 accessory suite. There's 3 variances to setbacks from front yard and from front, rear, and sides on existing porches and stairwells, and then 1 home-based business. So there, you will note that there is a 15% reduction year over year as of August when the report was created. But I did look back at May's DO report, and we are down 33% year over year back in May. So we are trending back towards our somewhat typical numbers, you know, COVID aside.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any questions or comments for Mr. Stewart? No? Can I have a motion to approve the development officer's report as presented? Mr. Ballmer? All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, opposed? Carried. Okay, the next item is DP 2020-78, which is freestanding signs with the variance.
Just a quick note, Jaylene, you may have to enable screen sharing for other users as you are now the host.
Done.
Perfect.
Okay, can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Good evening, members of the Cochrane Planning Commission. I'm here to present DP 2020-078. The application is for 3 directional signs, which are classified as freestanding signs in the land use bylaw. The signs are located at 40 Fireside Gate within the Fireside community. The property is zoned commercial residential mixed use where freestanding signs are permitted use. However, due to a variance to the land use bylaw, the application is being referred to the Cochrane Planning Commission this evening for a decision. The subject property is adjacent to commercial property zoned commercial residential mixed use to the north, east, and west, and Fireside Gate to the south. Directly south of Fireside Gate is an environmental reserve area designated as Public Service District. The application was reviewed against the land use bylaw regulations for freestanding signs. The proposed freestanding signs meet the land use bylaw for maximum sign height, sign area, sign separation, and the minimum setback from the property lines. However, the application requires 150% variance to the number of freestanding signs. The land use bylaw states that a maximum of 2 freestanding signs are allowed for a multi-unit site. Currently, there are 2 other approved signs for the development. However, therefore, a variance is required to allow a total of 5 freestanding signs for the multi-unit commercial development. These are the elevations for the proposed signs. The image on the left side of the screen shows the sign dimensions and scale. So it's 5 feet in height. And on the right, it shows the proposed sign copy. The proposed signs do not include heritage elements. However, the site as a whole has included heritage elements under previously approved development permits. This is the site plan for the commercial development for one of the signs. The sign is proposed at the end of the drive-through after the pedestrian crossing. And the sign is double-sided and the sign copy is on the right of the screen. This is the site plan showing the location of the other 2 signs proposed. The signs are located at the north and south entrances to the site to help direct vehicle traffic. These signs are also double-sided and the proposed sign copy is on the left of the screen. These are the elevations of the previously approved freestanding signs. The sign on the left currently exists on site and is located southwest of the McDonald's. The sign on the right will be constructed at the entrance to the drive-through and is currently in the appeal period for its application. These are site photos of the two proposed sign locations at the entrance to this site. The third sign, that area is still under construction, so I didn't have photos of that area. Administration has reviewed the application and supports the proposed variance, as it was determined that the small scale of the freestanding signs in relation to the multi-tenant commercial development, the sign locations, and the intended purpose of two signs to direct internal traffic within the site would have limited impact on surrounding developments. And it still meets the use for the land. Also, no concerns were raised during circulation. As a result, administration is recommending option 1 in the report, that the Cochrane Planning Commission approve the application for 3 freestanding signs with a variance and the noted conditions and advisory notes in the report. Thank you. That concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Okay, so are there any questions or comments, concerns with respect to CPC members?
I have a question. Sorry.
Nor?
I feel like I'm still learning.
We're all learning.
So just because we got through what we just went through with the other stuff, typically it would say we recommend approving this permit with these, and it would list the conditions. So are there no conditions, or did I miss that?
So through the chair, we don't typically put the conditions right in the report, in the presentation. It's included in the report.
Oh, sorry.
But we can start putting them in the presentation.
No, I'm behind. It's okay.
Okay. I have one question, just going back to the map as to the location of the signs. Could we go back there? And so I am wondering, the sign number 19.1 and 19.2. So the one sign is located as people leave and saying thank you and also don't go in. 19.2, so please correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't look like it's actually directing any traffic because there's no traffic there, right where it is. Like there's no road there that would put it right into the drive-through.
So to the chair, the sign right, a 19.2 is directing people from Fireside Gate onto the property. So Fireside Gate is located at the very bottom of this site plan.
Okay.
So the intent is to direct people from Fireside Gate into the property and to the drive-through.
Okay, so can you just with your arrow show me how, if I was in a vehicle, how I would be directed on the property?
So you can be coming, so to the chair, you can be coming from this direction from Highway 22, and the sign would be pointing you into this entrance.
Okay.
And then you would see the drive-through over here. Or you can be coming from the roundabout and from the Fireside community. And because it's double-sided, you could see the enter arrow on the sign, and then you would, oh, where'd my mouse go? Oh, and then you would enter in through here. So it's to direct people from Fireside Gate into the community so they know that that is an entrance to the site to gain access to the drive-through.
So again, correct me if I'm wrong, because if I'm looking at shaded background, so there is a roundabout.
Yes.
And then it looks like that there's parking spots.
So, so to the chair, this is actually not a roundabout. It's actually a detail in the road. It was just a design that they wanted to do in the road. It's not a true roundabout, if I remember correctly. But there is a crosswalk all around here, and then there's parking stalls here and here. So you'd have to turn and then enter the drive-through.
Okay, so I see. So they're turning from there into the driveway. Okay. So from 19.1, if I'm entering the site on 19.1, how am I getting through the drive-through? So it's,
So to the chair, it's similar idea to the one from the south. It's just getting people from the north. So this is a private road that leads to Fireside Boulevard.
mhm.
So you could come from Fireside Boulevard and then enter in here and then to the drive-through, or you can come from the Shell station and the Points West Living building and then be driving down the road and then turn down the road to gain access.
So I'm just wondering, does it not, I mean, the other buildings don't have signs to, this is what you need to do from a traffic perspective to get to us. Are they not, I'm just trying to recall going to McDonald's whether or not this many signs are required. It seems to me that it's a bit extraneous because we already have signs to how to go into the drive-through and also signs from exiting. So it just seemed to me that it seems like a lot of signs. I'm not sure that they're absolutely necessary. Just my comment. We have a question from Heather, or a comment.
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm very familiar with the area, and I think that those signs would be very helpful in managing the traffic flow, because I think that the majority of the traffic that's in there now, they're familiar, okay, because it's a lot of residents and it's businesses that aren't necessarily drawing traffic off of the highway, okay? But with a McDonald's there, right off of, coming off of Highway 1 and going up the 22, I think it would be important, because if we don't direct them directly into that first right-hand turn, they'll end up in the neighborhood. And that's going to cause a lot more congestion and traffic in the neighborhood. Same thing with this sign. I can't point to it because whatever, but the sign 19.1. If you can eliminate those who don't know where they're going from going into that Shell station and just causing more congestion unnecessarily. I think the more wayfinding signs in there, the better, because the entrance of the drive-through, otherwise you're going to have people coming. Can you see my hands? People coming from both directions to get into that drive-through, and that would be that would get pretty congested. I think the signs would be very helpful in managing the few ins and outs that are available to people who are not familiar with the area.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that perspective, Ms. Moore. Any other comments or questions? So if there's no comments or question, could we have a motion?
Do you need me to stop sharing my screen?
Yes. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Option 1.
Option 1 for DP 2020-078.
Okay.
AL5B at the end. Motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve on the floor. Any other further discussion? Comments? Okay, then if there's no other questions and comments, all in favor, we'll go to vote. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, and no one's opposed, so it's carried unanimously. Lisa?
Thank you.
Okay, and the next one is DP 2020-096, which is for a parking lot pad.
Would help if I had hit unmute. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Am I sharing my screen, Jaylene?
Yes, you are.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, there we go. Here we go. The application being presented is for an accessory use parking pad. The subject property is located in the residential single detached district R1, located at 54 block 29 plan 9811907, civically known as 66 West Terrace Drive, where accessory uses are listed as a discretionary use. The hard surface parking pad is proposed on the west side of the property adjacent to the attached garage, where the intent is to park the applicant's 20-foot 15-passenger van, which is used seasonally. The development notification sign was posted on the property on August the 13th, and the application was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for comment. Administration received no concerns regarding the parking pad. Planning's evaluation of the parking pad looks to the land use bylaw section 11.3.8E, which states that on lots where no other parking space is possible, a parking pad may be allowed in a yard of a lot in a residential district at the development officer's authority's discretion. The parking pad shall not be an extension of an existing driveway or be directly adjacent to an existing driveway, not be an extension of an existing driveway or directly adjacent to an existing driveway, have a maximum length at the discretion of the development authority, have a minimum width of 2.75 meters and a length of 6.0 meters, comply with the design standard requirements, and not have access that requires a boulevard to curb to access the parking pad. The proposed parking pad meets these requirements of the land use bylaw. These are site photos of the property. The applicant is looking to, beside the attached garage there, basically making the parking pad from the edge of that, going right back to where that fence line is. These are some more pictures of the property and the 15 passenger van that the applicant is wanting to park on that location. Administration supports the application for the parking pad as it complies with section 11.3.8E of the land use bylaw and therefore recommends option 1, that the Cochrane Planning Commission approve DP 2020-096 for the accessory use parking pad on lands legally described as lot 54, block 29, plan 9811907, 66 West Terrace Drive, subject to the following conditions. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cosby. So, CPC members, does anyone have any questions or comments of Ms. Cosby? No, I have one question, Ms. Cosby. I'm just wondering, just to clarify the land use bylaw, if that a passenger van that's only used seasonally, could it be considered a recreational vehicle?
So through the chair, we're not classifying what type of a vehicle it is there. You're actually approving just a parking pad. So the intent of the parking pad is for the applicant to park their 15 passenger van, which they use seasonally on that location. So it is not their intent to use it as a recreational use, but the application is for a parking pad. So that's what you are approving.
Mm-hmm.
If the
No,
applicant,
I understand that.
at some point in time, if the applicant wished to park a recreational vehicle, the land use bylaw does say that they are allowed to park it in the side or rear property. And that can be done year round, but they are not allowed to park their RV in the front yards from October 1st to May 1st.
Okay, that's what I was looking for clarification of with respect to parking the recreational vehicle. Okay, any other questions, comments? Have the, Lyle, you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Danica, for the presentation. So this one I see, unless I'm missing something, is a real win. This gets one more vehicle off the street. The owner gets to use the vehicle, inspect it through the winter. I'm assuming if he parks it someplace else, they have to commute to that location. So I see, unless I'm missing something, no problem with it. With that in mind, I'd like to move that we approve development permit 2020-096 with the stated conditions.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Any other comments, questions, concerns before we move to a vote? No? Okay, so with that in mind, as I said, we have a motion on the floor. Option 1 to approve, to vote. All in favor?
In favor.
Favor. Okay, and it is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Good. So that brings our agenda to an end. The next meeting is Wednesday, October 21st at 6:30, and I move the meeting closed.
Have a good evening, everybody.